So, as some of you are very aware, we have local elections coming up here in the UK. And in particular, South Yorkshire, made up of the different boroughs of, Sheffield, Rotherham, Doncaster, and Barnsley, have all really different peculiarities, which are actually going to make some of the races quite interesting to watch and see how some of these turn out. Because in Barnsley in particular, we've got a lot of independents who are like former Brexit Party people. We've got a DV candidate who's a Democratic veteran candidate who is, well, bad to talk ill of the ill of the people. But yeah, needless to say, these elections are going to be very, very interesting to watch because I think we're going to see definitely, I think a lot of third-party candidates people take a lot of the lead. But as I've said before, very interestingly, Labour in particular, because of how a lot of the Labour grassroots have really felt that they've been abandoned by like the national party almost. The Labour grassroots during the pandemic have really got down and dirty and gone out and done some fantastic stuff at a local level. And as I've said before, stuff that happens at a local level, it can be often far more be impactful than what happens at a national level, especially in local elections. So the fact that a lot of these, the Labour councillors who have been running have been getting out over the past year and really mucking out and help is going to help them enormously in the upcoming elections. So we'll have to see, obviously, what happens. But nevertheless, we're going to jump in today to a quick overview of the elections going on in South Yorkshire, all in the different boroughs, and some of the interesting races to watch in those areas. So, as always, please do remember to hit the please do remember to hit the like, share, and subscribe buttons when I remember the names. And also down below there is a link to my Patreon page and a one-off donation link called Buy Me a Coffee, where you can, buy me a coffee. And I'm going to jump into the article. And like I say, this comes from the Yorkshire Bylines and their coverage of this. So the title is The Local Elections Preview South Yorkshire. So, South Yorkshire is comprised of 4 boroughs: Sheffield, Rotherham, Doncaster and Barnsley, and all have councillors up for election in 2021, and peculiarities about each race make them particularly exciting to watch. So, South Yorkshire politics is marked by 4 main trends at the moment. The first, long-standing Labour dominance. Even at the height of Thatcher's success, the Conservatives only held one of the county's 15 constituencies. And as John Caldwell has written, South Yorkshire was in fact one of the main sources of local government to actually resist Thatcher. The second trend is the tendency of local independence. Small parties like the Barnsley Independents and Mexborough First have persisted throughout various elections. In Rotherham, the city's group of the Brexit Party councillors split off to form the Rotherham Democratic Party in 2019. The third has been the consistent presence of the far right in the county. In 2009, the Nationalist English Democrat Party won the Doncaster mayoralty, and UKIP has been a steady presence in the county, coming in second into the 2016 council elections in Rotherham. The final trend has been the gradual increase in the presence of the Greens and Liberal Democrats in the Corbyn years. This has been mitigated by the fact that the two boroughs, Doncaster and Rotherham, have not had any local elections since 2017 and 2016 respectively. So, can these trends actually change? And this is why it's interesting. And it is how these trends may change in 2021. In 2019, the Conservatives had their best performance in South Yorkshire, taking 3 constituencies from Labour across 3 separate boroughs. Meanwhile, far-right political parties have collapsed across the counties since 2016. Nigel Farage's New Reform UK is only standing 8 candidates in the whole of South Yorkshire, and no one has stepped up to fill this political space. This unique circumstances of the pandemic will also make it difficult for local independents to campaign, with in-person door knocking made more tricky. Moreover, with Corbyn no longer at Labour's helm, it is yet to see how the dynamics between the three main progressive forces in the county will be affected. Also up for election is the South Yorkshire Crime Commissioner as well. So the chances of Labour losing this election are close to none. In both 2012 and 2016, the party won in the first round of voting with 51% of the vote. The incumbent, Alan Billings, is running on a relatively strong record, having managed the force's response to the Hillsborough inquest as well. To oppose him, the Liberal Democrats have put up Sheffield City Councillor Joe Orton and the Conservatives, a retired Metropolitan Police Superintendent David Chilton. And also we've got the Doncaster local elections as well. So what's going on there? So in addition to Doncaster's City Council, Labour's Roe Joss is up for election as mayor. And in 2017, despite this poor set of elections nationally, Labour managed to make gains from UKIP and currently holds 34 of the council's 55 seats. It is unlikely that the broadly popular Mayor Jones will be unseated this year, having won in 2017 with over 50% of the vote and having recently received praise for handling of the pandemic. However, threats come from Reform UK's Sajid Duhur, who came in third at the Doncaster Central in the 2019 general election. Moreover, the Green Party is standing a mayoral candidate in Doncaster for the first time since 2005. Writer and artist Warren Draper, the Greens have gradually increased their presence in Barnsley and Sheffield, and Draper's candidacy indicates that they intend to pose a serious challenge to Labour. Standing with a record of 27 candidates across the city, this could be their year to get a foothold on the council. Similarly, the Conservatives have doubled their nominations to 54, with the field so far devoid of any far-right parties. This newly blue constituency in Don Valley, they may be looking to make gains of the formerly UKIP wards. The key questions in this election will be the same as they are nationally. Can the Greens maintain the momentum from the Corbyn years? And can the Conservatives consolidate the former UKIP and Brexit Party votes? And how will smaller parties be affected by the limitations of the pandemic? So the wards to watch will be these. Bessacar, represented by one Conservative and two Labour councillors, and a swing either way could flip this ward red or blue. Rossington and Bawtry, represented by one independent and two Labour councillors, with the Yorkshire Party trailing narrowly behind. Stanford and Barley Dunn were a mere 18 votes separated from Labour from the Conservatives in 2017. And Hatfield, in the newly Conservative Don Valley constituency in 2017, Labour clung on to the ward's three councillors, with the opposition vote split between UKIP and the Conservatives. Without this split, this could potentially be a Tory gain. So, over to Rotherham. So the whole of Rotherham Council is up for election this year, having last been elected in 2016. In the last election, in the shadow of the child exploitation disaster that resulted in the government commissioning the temporary running of the city, UKIP won 29.5% of the vote. This council election, the first in Rotherham since 2016, will be highly volatile. Not only are the former UKIP, now the Rotherham Democratic Party, councillors standing 40 councillors across the borough, but the Conservatives have gained double their number of nominations, up to 42. The Greens and Liberal Democrats have also increased their numbers of candidates as well. What makes this even more volatile is that Rotherham has had boundary changes since 2016, and how these will impact election results is almost impossible to tell. This election will thus be an interesting one to look at. The voter split will be on a full set of parties on the ballot. The Rotherham Democrats may be able to keep their share of the vote, but they won as UKIP, but this also may be funneled off to the Tories as well. Similarly, Starmer's main achievement as Labour leader has been cannibalising the Lib Dem vote of 2019. If this fails to happen when voters actually go to the polls, it could very well spell the end for the trouble of Labour locally. Although the wants to watch section is difficult to map with the current boundary changes. This one that will certainly be interesting to watch, will be the Stillwell ward. In 2016, UKIP won all three spots there by a hair, and with the ward compromises part over Rother Valley constituencies, with the Conservatives won in 2019 this year, Labour and the Conservatives and the Rotherham Democrats are all putting up 3 candidates to contest the ward. So what about my own of Barnsley? So, only a third of Barnsley councillors are up for election this year. Like with Rotherham and Doncaster, Barnsley's election will be more competitive than it was in 2016, when they were last held, with Labour defending all but 3 seats. Challenges will come for the Liberal Democrats, the Greens and Barnsley Independents, all of whom are fielding a record number of candidates this year. So, what are the seats to watch? Well, first one, Penistone West, which the Liberal Democrats won in 2018 and 2019, gaining from Labour and the Conservatives respectively. This and Dodworth are both part of the Penistone and Stocksbridge, a constituency gained by the Conservatives in 2019. Dodworth, which the Barnsley Independents won in 2016, Labour in 2018 and the Liberal Democrats in 2019. Monkbretton, which Labour won comfortably in 2016 and 2018, but lost to the Democrats and Veterans in 2019. Starefoot, which the Barnsley Independents won from Labour in 2019, and this time Labour is defending this in 2021. So on to Sheffield. Of all the councils in South Yorkshire, Sheffield elections will be among the most exciting. A third of councillors are up for election, where Labour holds the majority of only 3. Unlike the other cities, the main contenders in Sheffield are other progressives, with 26 Liberal Democrats and 8 Greens on the council. A referendum is also being held on the changing of the city's leadership structure. The referendum proposes changing the current structure of a council leader and a cabinet to give a selection of committees decision-making power instead. If successful, this could lead to a more harmonious existence between the political parties in the city. And a leaked memo in 2020 revealed that Sheffield is among the 3 Yorkshire councils that Labour was worried about losing in the elections scheduled for that year. With the party's majority in the council damaged during the Corbyn years, they will need to lose 3 of the 15 seats they're defending this year to fall into a minority government. One issue that will dominate the local scenes will be the recent inquiry, which revealed that the council mishandled the felling of roadside trees, failing to consult communities in the £2.2 billion scheme. This is an issue that plays well into the local Green Party, who have campaigned strongly on it from the start. There's also a lot of data for Sheffield, and all these councillors were elected after boundary changes in 2016 and the elections of 1/3 of the council in 2018 and 19. Thus, it is relatively easy to divide the wards into. So, the marginal Green Labour wards are in 2018 to 19, Broomhill and Shell Vale, Gladeless Valley, Nether Edge and Sharrow, and the marginal Labour and Liberal Democrat wards, with the Lib Dems made gains in 2018 and 19, were Crooks and Crosspool, East Ecclesfield, Mexborough and West Ecclesfield. So Labour is defending in all of these wards, and a bad or mediocre night could see them lose all 7, with control of the council. Meanwhile, of the Liberal Democrats and Green-held wards require relatively significant swings to be taken by any other party. Given the long-standing political trends in the city, it would not be surprising if Labour were to lose the majority here. However, a change of leadership and an unpredictable circumstances of campaigning in the pandemic leave everything in the balance. So that's the state of play, really, in the South Yorkshire elections. And I do think that, as I said here, it could be very, very interesting on election night how these things go. Like I say, we don't know how things on the ground in some cases. I know, in fact, for example, in Barnsley, a lot of the Labour councils in 2020 really got out and started doing some really good work. So that could really affect things in Barnsley. That, again, not mentioned here, but it could be very interesting, especially in Sheffield, where the council could end up being run by this bizarre coalition between the Greens and the Lib Dems. That could be very interesting to watch. Like I say, we're going to have to wait and see what happens, but nevertheless, the elections are fast approaching. So, as always, Like I say, when we get coverage, we will cover some of the stuff that's going on in the area of the local elections, and we'll bring you some of the news that's going on around them as well when we get it. So, as always, thanks for watching. Please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below there is a link to my Patreon page, as well as a one-off donation link. And as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you all next time.